Welcome back to another episode of Know Your Legacy. I'm your host, V, and today's guest is Kevin Abdulrahman. Kevin is a motivational speaker who's inspiring millions across the world and is regularly hired by Fortune 500 CEOs, presidents, royalty, and government agencies, not only to share his infectious energy, but to teach them how to become more engaging and effective in their communication. So, Kevin, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
So we were just talking off air just now, and I was asking you about your accent because you've got a bit of a mixture going on there. So you said, just for people who may not know you, you said you grew up in Manchester.
Yeah. So the quick brief and background, it's Kevin Abdulrahman, and people go, "Where are you from?" So dad was Arab. He was apparently studying where he met my mum in the UK, and I was born in Manchester. So I was born in the UK and then raised between New Zealand and Dubai.
Oh, awesome. Okay, fine. And what was it? What was that like? Was that for most of your childhood, or did you move over to Dubai quite soon after?
We traveled quite a bit. So I think it was the first few years in the UK. I don't remember much of it. I don't have memory, so to speak. Then moved to Dubai and then pretty much did all our schooling and growing up. And in essence, our imprint, me and my brothers were Kiwis, so to speak. So culturally Kiwis, but Arabic blood.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay, cool. So, and in terms of, I guess, your journey so far, you've spoken at quite a few places. You've been hired by many people around the world. What actually started that? Because I know you weren't always a confident individual in school. You weren't always the outgoing person. Like, if you could just shed some light on what it was like growing up around the school days, if that was in Dubai, I think you said some of your school days.
Yes, so my schooling was in New Zealand. The essence of it was like coming from a Middle Eastern background, even though we grew up in New Zealand, it was just really something that's quite common even in Asia, where, your parents hope the best for you. And what my parents had hoped for me was to become a doctor. And in reality, the only really jobs that I knew of was, you either become a doctor, you become a lawyer, an accountant, or an engineer, which seems to be something common. People my age, they'll tell you the same thing about the conversations their parents had with them. So my thing was to become a doctor, but I ended up going at first year university, which was pre-med. And a few things happened at that point, and I'm going, what am I doing here? But up until that point, that was all that was kind of, I suppose my mind was conditioned was, you're going to be a doctor. I didn't like blood, man. And at that point, I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing here? I've got a girlfriend who handles blood way better than I do. She should become a doctor, not me. Then I saw a few things in terms of, there was 130 kids in my class. I just really paid attention. And at that point I realized, hey, to be a doctor, you really need to have, care, making a difference in people's lives. These are the things that needs to be the priority. I noticed a few, kids that were going, hey, I can't wait to be a doctor. I can't wait to make money. I can't wait to live the life. And I wanted that. But hearing others say it, it made me think, and I'm going, there are ways that there's nothing wrong with, making money, becoming successful. And that is actually what I'd like to do. I don't think that matches with, being a doctor as a profession, so to speak. Sure, I know a lot of doctors are super successful. They've got all the great things in life, but that wasn't their purpose. Their purpose was to really make difference in humanity, really make a difference in society. The byproduct was success, wealth, fame, so forth. But that was one of the things that made me think, I think I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm not sure what I want to do, but this isn't it.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's so many people at that age that think that as well. Like, they don't know what they want to do, or if they do study something, they don't end up using that. They end up going in a completely different direction altogether. So it's interesting you say that.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. I think there are tons of people with degrees and what they're doing today, and if you were to look back and see what degrees they got, they don't match. Like 90% of them don't match. Someone's a dentist, but now they're a successful entrepreneur. Someone is a successful lawyer, but what they studied was medicine. It's all a mismatch.
Yeah, most definitely. So, I mean, for you then, what was it that your parents were doing? Because I know you were saying that I guess that was the mentality they had that you grew up in, which was be a doctor, a lawyer, accountant, that sort of thing. So what did they do?
My parents sacrificed a lot, so they didn't have the opportunity to be a doctor or a lawyer and so forth. And so I think that was in their psyche was, okay, we haven't had that opportunity, or we don't have that opportunity. The best that we could do is provide this opportunity for our kids, which is something that's shared by a lot of kids, my age or my generation, or perhaps with your parents. This is something that's shared. They're making a sacrifice for the next generation. And me and my brothers, we owe a lot to them. It's just the fact that perhaps 30 years ago, being a doctor meant that you could have a stable life, you could have a great life, you could have the opportunities that our parents may not have had. But today, it's a completely different world. And I think more and more people are realizing it, and more people should realize that it's not about what we want to do or what we should be doing. It's what we gravitate to naturally. We all have traces of talent. The thing is, we need to spend time to figure out what's our traces of talent and what do we need to work hard for. It gets mistaken in this day and age of wanting everything easy. People are going, oh, I don't like to do this, I don't want to do this. Well, there are going to be a lot of things you don't like to do. The point is, you have to work hard. You might as well work hard doing something you love.
Yeah, I love that, because then you just come out with this energy that's just, it doesn't run out. Like, it's infinite. You go to a place in yourself where it's just non-stop. And I guess that's what keeps you going, because as a motivational speaker, and we'll talk about this shortly, but there must be times when you feel burnt out or tired, and it's like your clients expect a certain level of energy. Even if you just did 50 hours, it doesn't matter. It's like, we're paying you, let's go again. And you can only do that sort of work if it comes natural to you. And so, talking about traces of talent, where did that initially show up for you? Just so people have in their mind, how you found yourself, but then how they can sort of pick out the things in their life.
Yeah. I mean, my family and I, we have this joke that don't ask Kevin to do anything around the house. Me and my brothers were really different. And when you grow up in New Zealand as a Kiwi, it's a very much a do-it-yourself culture. So if you want to have a deck made, you call out some of your friends over the weekend, you get a few six-packs, and you start building the deck and have a few drinks while you're doing it. So my brother is that kind of a person. A lot of my friends are those kind of people who they're very active and they can do things. Me, not so much. You want something done? I'm like, well, why don't we just ask someone to come and do it? So completely useless when it comes to like handiwork, or it's just not me. I naturally just gravitated to, being an introvert most of the time. I like to think, or I like to pay attention, and I like to, I suppose, spend a bit of time with my thoughts. And I realized that I was good at seeing a big picture. I was good at being able to say, okay, I can see the holes in this, and this is, if we have a problem here, this is a way of how we can solve this. I was good when it came to thinking out through strategies and communicating. Again, traces of talent. I wasn't great at it at the beginning. I could just see myself gravitating towards that. I gravitated towards, writing messages. So I'd get comments, hey, you're quite good when it comes to the written word. This is back in the days when texting was on a single digit. I don't know if you're old enough to remember this or not, but to type out one word, you literally had to spell every single letter, which took a while, but I seemed to gravitate to it. And I thought to myself, and then, a lot of things happen in life. Now that I'm a lot older and wiser, I can see that a lot of things happened in life where things didn't work out, and I'm grateful that it didn't work out, because it helped me figure out what I really wanted to do. So every experience, every failure, every fall, every challenge, that kind of helped me refine my thinking. I had no idea this is where I would be today 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer. Today, I'm super clear. I'm a public speaking coach to CEOs and world leaders, and I'm a motivational speaker who speaks, on stages around the world. It's really specific, because even in the domain that I'm in, I'm sure from your interviews, you'll meet a lot of people, and the range of things that you can do and people do is quite diverse. You really have to pick out and figure out what's your niche, what do you naturally gravitate to. Like you said, I work at 3 a.m. It's expected of me. Because I work with CEOs, they have full days. The only times we might be able to meet and work on their speech is from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. They're willing to make the sacrifice, and I'm excited about it. I get up at 3 a.m. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I wouldn't get up at 3 a.m. to eat breakfast. But when it comes to this kind of work, it really juices me up.
Yeah, I love that, we're talking about being specific, because I think what tends to happen at the start is you naturally gravitate, and this is what you were saying, towards a certain thing, which is, all right, communication, giving advice to people. Yeah. And then as you go further down, you're like, oh, actually, I'm good at this. All right, who do I want to focus on? what's my area of expertise, what do I want to really be known as? And then it's the whole thing about just enjoying the process of it, because you're never going to know. Like you said, 15, 20 years you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to coach world leaders. That wasn't even a possibility, because you hadn't gone further enough down the road to understand that this is a reality now.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that you shared that. But
And the key,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, you really have to, before you even think about, oh, I want to have this title. And I guess this is something that in this day and age, people, they have plenty of options. They see it on Instagram, they see it on Facebook, they see it on social media. Oh, I can be an influencer. I can be, I can do this. I can be a coach. I can be a speaker. It all seems too easy, but the reality is what I think people need to focus on, perhaps it's a tip for your viewers, is you need to focus on not getting the title, but seeing what process you actually enjoy doing. It's a small difference, but it will be a significant thing in terms of end result. Like, I don't go out saying, today I can say I'm a public speaking coach to CEOs. I enjoy the process of being a public speaking coach to CEOs. I get the results. It really juices me up. That's why I'm doing this, But it might not be for the person. They might just like the prestige, or they might like the title. I too would like to be a motivational speaker. But the truth of the matter is, you could be doing it for 5 years and you go, you know what? I don't like to do this. I have friends of mine. I know people, great people, successful, more successful than I am, more successful than a lot of other people. People don't even know they exist, and they like it that way. They're not on the limelight. They're not in the news. They're not on Forbes magazine. But if they were, they would be right up there. But they like to just live a low-key life. That's important for them. And that's the thing, is you need to understand what it is for you, because we're all different. Even we might be really similar, we still have our quirks and our things that just make us different.
Yeah, definitely. And you couldn't have done that. You couldn't have worked at 3:00 in the morning if you didn't enjoy the process. So yeah, I hope people take that away and just really reflect on what is it that they would enjoy doing, knowing that they're not going to get it straight away. I guess that's the succinct way of putting it to people. But do you remember your first gig, like first time that you got hired, or the first time that you had to speak?
No, I've been asked this a few times, and I think it was so bad that I blanked out. Like, it was just such a bad memory. I literally can't remember. I've been asked this a few times, and the answer is the same. I don't remember, but I assume it was so bad that I've literally just blanked it out.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, because I wanted people to see, like, where you started, how small the crowd was, but I'm assuming, from how far you've gone now, that it's not going to be at the level that it was. You had to start somewhere, and I don't know if you can reflect on, or you remember some of the darker days.
I remember. It really, in terms of how it started, was just sitting with friends. What we normally do when we catch up with friends and have a coffee. It really just started there, where I'd hear people complaining about things where, to me, I could see if they were complaining about a certain situation. I could see where they were. I suppose I could see the bigger picture, and I could see what needed to be done. So I would ask them, hey, if you're just complaining for the sake of it, I'm not going to say anything, but if you'd like some suggestions, here are some things you could actually do. And then as I kept on doing this, again, without really thinking about it, as I kept doing this, feedback was coming in. And then I started paying attention to the feedback, where people would say, hey, this stuff is really good. I'm like, this stuff is good. You should get paid for it. I should get paid for it. And it kind of developed. But it's been a long road, a hard road. I tend to get a lot of people who say, I would like to become a motivational speaker. I would like to become a public speaking coach. Great. Go for it. Be willing to put the sacrifice in. I'm not saying it's going to take you 15 years. It took me 15 years to even get to a point where I could say that, hey, this is actually a profession that's doing me well. It's been 15 years of sacrifice. I know people who've done it in 6 months. The point is, you need to make sure that it's for you, or whatever it is you choose to do, and understand that you will be working hard and you will be sacrificing, and you can't start being great. You need to answer your question. You can't start being great. You have to accept that whatever you choose to do, you'll be terrible at the beginning, but that is the discomfort you need to go through to be able to get to a point where you're great. You look at anyone who's successful, anyone who's great, they never started great.
Yeah, it's the whole thing about process again. Everything starts from the ground, and then you build on top of that once you've built a foundation to actually progress onto. So that makes a lot of sense. I mean, do you remember, in terms of as you were building the business, if the frequent questions people were asking you as your name was becoming more and more known, like some of the things that people wanted to know from you, like frequently asked questions or anything that you felt like, oh, people keep asking me this, I need to just address it in a keynote next time or something?
I mean, a question a lot of people ask is a question that they know the answer to, which is kind of amusing. So the questions I most hear, people know the answers to it. They just want to hear from me. And I'll tell them that. I'll be like, that question, the chances are you know the answer to it. How do I lose weight? Like, you know the answer to how to lose weight. Get into the gym, get a good workout routine, get your nutrition in place. Boom, there it is. It's right there. You just want to hear it or you want to talk about it. You're not willing to do anything about it. How do I start a business? I don't know, man. But chances are, if you're in any one of these, first world countries, with $50 or $100, you can set up a business name. If you really want to have a website up, you can have it within 2 hours. If you want to have something sold, you can have a shopping cart through Shopify or what have you in 24 hours. So the questions people ask are often very common, but they know the answer to it. They're waiting or they're hoping for a magic potion or a magic pill, when in reality, I'm going to give them the same information they know. The difference is it's easy to do, but because of that, it's also easy not to do. And that's what holds people back. They know the answer to it. They're just not willing to go through that discomfort of stepping on.
So it seems like it's a lack of motivation, because you're right. People do know the answers to everything, like pretty much everything. And if you don't know it, we have Google, and everyone knows that we have Google. So it's not that they don't have the answer. If you dig a bit deeper, I guess it's the motivation. So how does that piece get fixed in people? Like, how do we get them to make that movement, to make that change? Because I know you did it with losing weight. You had 20, you were 20 kilos heavier, you lost it, and you've kept it that way.
Yeah, it was.
What is it? What is it that people are missing?
Yeah, you got to figure out your why. You got to figure out your reason of why you're doing it. We lack motivation when we don't have a reason. You need to have a reason to get out of bed. You need to have a reason to do this podcast. Like you're doing this podcast, I think you've got about 100 or so. You've got to your 100 and close to 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, it requires work, man. This requires motivation. There are a lot of people at this point in time, including myself. I've been told you should do a podcast. You should do a podcast. Yeah, I know that. I'm still not doing it, because it's easy to say I don't have the motivation. The real answer is I don't have the reason. Once I have the reason, if the reason comes about and it's in line with what I want and what I'd like to achieve, and the reason is really there, you'll see me doing a podcast. Don't know what it is, but once the reason is there, I'll end up doing it if that's what's going to get me through what I'd like to achieve. So what holds people back is the fact that they don't have a reason. You don't need motivation. The motivation, that's something, Zig Ziglar said it, it's like a shower. You need to have it once every day. But the thing is, let's take the weight loss. I'll talk about my experience. So I lost 20 kgs. For a long time, I was overweight. You could say, I didn't like the motivation. No, I lacked reason, right? I was comfortable. Things were good. I had what I wanted. There was no reason. There was a time when an ex-girlfriend, though, looked at a picture of when we first started dating and then where we were at that point, and she's like, wow, you used to look really sexy. Used to. Oh, that was painful, right? She said it as a passing comment, but to me, that was super painful. That's when I was like, hey, I'm a motivational speaker. I tell people they can do whatever they want to do. The hell am I doing with an extra 20 kgs? I don't even like the way I look. That evening, I went down, hit the gym, but I found my reason, and it was literally within weeks where I lost it, and now it's been over a decade. But it's that reason. And now the reason is I want to live longer. I want to, your reasons change. Like now my reason is I want to look good for my nephews. I've got 2 nephews. I want to make sure that they end up growing up with a healthy lifestyle where they pay attention to their health, because without your health, it doesn't matter what you have. You're going to put everything back to your health, if heaven forbid, if it's at risk. And for me to be able to tell my nephews, hey, take care of yourself, or take care of your body, or make sure you're having good nutrition, I need to be able to lead by example. So the reason today is I want to stay in shape to make sure that I'm a good example for my nephews.
Yeah, I love that. So
So
it's just
reason, my friend.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just getting the reason right, and you're completely right. You know, it's because people haven't got a clear reason that they're not taking action on a certain task, and everything that they're doing, they have a reason for that as well. If that makes sense, like they're currently
Yeah.
living a
Yeah.
lifestyle, but they've justified why that lifestyle is good enough. So
Yeah.
it's funny until they
Yeah.
can
I
break
mean,
out.
if you, I mean, when you're going to work, you're going to work for a reason, because there's the paycheck coming at the end of the week. If the paycheck didn't come in, the chances are you wouldn't go to work.
So no, that makes a lot of sense, and it's going to give something for people to think about, because it's not until you stop to think that you really realize, actually, I don't enjoy what I'm doing now. I know I can do more. And if you ask anyone as well, can you do more? Yes. Why aren't you doing it? I don't know. So it's just getting the reason right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So with
Yeah. I mean, I said go ahead.
no, go on, because I want to get into the communication side of things afterwards. But yeah, go for it.
No worries. Just with the reason aspect, I mean, I always joke and say I wish our birthdays and New Year would come, perhaps once every month, because that's the time we're going back on what you said. Can you do more? You say yes. Our birthdays and New Year tends to be a time where we reflect. Man, could I have done more last year? Yes. Could I have been more? Yes. Could I have given more? Yes. The answer is always yes.
Yeah.
But we don't take the time to actually think and go, hey, can I do more? Yeah. If you just ask that question on a daily basis, you'll be in a different place 12 months from now.
Yeah, asking it on a daily basis is powerful, because then you're forced to push yourself 1% at a time every single day. So that's crazy.
That's it.
But with communication, it's interesting because you're hired now by some of the top ranking people in the world. What is it that they are fearful of, or what is it that they're missing? Why do they hire you? Like, what is it? Because when we see them in the media all the time, and we just think, wow, they're untouchable because they're like in the media, they're so high up in terms of their ranking and their status and their money, but they still need help with certain things, and you help them behind closed doors. Can you shed some light on the work you do with them?
Yeah. So when you're in a leadership position, you work hard to get to a point where you're in a leadership position. When you become a leader, most of your time is spent in communication. So you're speaking, you're teaching, you're coaching, you're persuading, you're influencing, you're directing, you're getting people to buy into your vision. You need to be able to communicate. The thing is, in the past, most people, they overlooked, or they just put it to one side saying, hey, I'll just work hard. I've got the skills. I've got the talent. Pure, sheer hard work. I'll get to the top. And they did that, and they did it successfully, and they got to the top. When you're at the top, you realize, hey, there is no escaping, public speaking. There is no escaping presenting. There is no escaping communication. And the guys at the top, when I say guys, I mean guys and girls. The people at the top, they realize, hey, like any skill, this is a skill that I need to develop. This is a skill that I need to refine, because today it's expected of us. You're expected to communicate with impact. You're expected to communicate your message clearly. You're expected to, be inspiring. If you don't have that, my perception of you drops. Right? So every time you're communicating, every time you're speaking, your reputation is on the line. More people today are realizing it. So they're realizing that I don't need to be in a leadership position. Whatever position I'm in, communication is a critical skill, and I need to develop it. So to come back to your question, I tend to work with the top folks who are in a position where they go, oh shit, I have the skill that is required of me, and I haven't developed it. I need someone to help me out. They've got a communication team. Again, there are a lot of people who are textbook theory teachers. The reason I get called in is because I speak for a living. So I understand what it takes to communicate. I can save them a lot of time. I do save them a lot of time. And in the circles, when it comes to public speaking coaching, I'm known as the guy who gets results. So I tend to get the phone calls that go, hey, we need your help. We need you to come over. And we need it now. I'm like, all right. But things, hey, it's to go back on your question, it's psyche. So the work, when it comes to communication, there's two areas to it. There is the inner game, and then there is the outer game. The inner game is the psyche. What are you saying to yourself? What are the thoughts that are going through your head? If you go up there and you're worried about how you're going to look, what you're going to say, if you're worried about getting it wrong, these things are going to be detrimental to your ability to, communicate with power. Then you've got the outer game, and this is skills. There are skills, there are things that you need to do in order to be a great communicator. When you look, like you said, when you look at individuals who are in the media, those who are actually really good, right? They have practiced continuously for countless hours on how to actually communicate, how it's refined, how it's spontaneous, how it looks powerful, how they're able to be charismatic, or they're able to gravitate, and you actually feel all of that. That's all practiced. That's all learned skill.
Yeah, that's it's crazy to think that, because you would never see them for 5 minutes on the TV, or even less sometimes, and you'd think, wow, that's not something I can achieve. But at the same time, as you said, they worked their way up to there. They weren't born a president, or they weren't born into that position. They had to work their way up, and then they hired a coach like yourself to come in and do the work. But can you share a story or stories of people at that level? Obviously, you don't have to give names, but of someone that you felt like, okay, this guy's really, falling down in this area, and these are the things that I've realized he needed help with.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, there are plenty of examples. Everyone's different, right? Everyone is at a different stage. The people I tend to work with, they already have a communication team, or they've already attended a lot of communication workshops, and they've read the books, they've done all of that kind of stuff. So my focus is really working with them one-on-one. What's their strength? What's their weakness? So one client that comes to mind has he summited all the mountains, and he wanted to tell his story. And in order to be able to tell his story, I had to work with him on being able to tell his story in a powerful way. So we worked on storytelling techniques. Another CEO that I worked with, she had an issue with confidence. So most of the work that we did was inner game, because once we got her inner game right, her psyche right in terms of thoughts, the outer game then became simple. She just needed to know, boom, 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 these are the skills, or these are the things I need to do. In this order, it will work. But what was holding her back was up here. But when it comes to leadership, or when it comes to communication, the best way and the oldest way, and the way that is the most effective, is through analogies and storytelling. So that's something that I work with, is telling them or teaching them how to tell stories.
I think one of the biggest and most popular things is the inner game piece, which is the way that people talk to themselves and getting their state of mind in the right place. So can you just break down a little bit about how you would help someone get their inner game at a world-class level?
First and foremost, most of the fears that we have. So if, when you ask anyone to, okay, hey, buddy, V, next week you're up and you got to present in the boardroom, or you got to, do a sales presentation, or you need to get up and speak. Most people don't tend to have a positive association with the fact that they need to stand up and speak. Most people, 99% of the time, they're like going, oh shit, I gotta. And you see them, they're sweating, and they'll go and they'll either do nothing with it, but they're stressing out, or they're just anxious and they're working on their PowerPoints and they're trying to get it all sorted because they've got something that's looming, like something like it's a big weight around their neck. And the reality is, all this comes about when you're thinking about yourself. So the first thing I tell my clients when I'm working with them is, we need to shift this mindset. It's not you focused. Sure, you need to stand up and speak. You are the one that's going to present, but understand that it's not about you. It's about your audience. Right? You're there in your capacity to communicate your message. The message could have easily been sent by email. That's another question I'll ask them. Why are you standing up to speak? Why can't I just receive an email? Like, I'd rather go and get a coffee and get an email. Why are you taking up an hour of my time? Understand the reason why you're actually going to get up and speak. You're there not to look good. You're there not to, be called the man, or, the boss. That's not the reason. The reason you're going to stand up and speak or present is you have a message that you want to be delivered clearly and with impact. So it's shifting that focus, which helps. Because the stress most people have, or the anxiety they have, their mouth dries up and they start sweating and their heart is beating fast, and all that comes from the fact that they're worried about how they look. What if I get it wrong? What if things don't go the way it's supposed to be? What? It's all I. The moment you shift it to the audience, the moment you go, hey, I have a message. How can I deliver this message in a way where it's going to make sense for the audience, where they understand it in the right way, where I can make it, fun, so it's not boring. The moment you shift your focus, a lot of this fear, anxiety, and this disgust that people might have when it comes to, having to speak, all that goes away. And I've had clients who've gone from the negative association and negative feeling to actually being excited. So now they see every time they need to present, or every time they need to stand up and speak, it's an opportunity.
It's a change in mindset, definitely. So, I mean, if you were to just shift it slightly in terms of situation to a friend that I was speaking to recently, he had an interview. So there, you're not presenting to a massive audience, but you're having an interview, and you're feeling the pressure because you feel like you need to perform, you need to do well. What do they expect of me?
Yes.
And then you've got this whole judgment thing going on. And he was telling me about some of the stuff he was telling himself, the doubts and whatnot. How does someone deal with that side of things?
Yeah. So again, even in that case, right? What were some of the doubts he had? Like, give me a few of the things he shared with you.
So he didn't go into a lot of detail, but basically he's just worried about how he would come across if he's answering the question correctly. Does he sound professional? Is he coming across intelligent enough? That sort of thing.
Right. So am I intelligent enough? What if I stuff this up? What if I get it wrong? How am I coming across? This is all me focused, right? It's I, right? Even in an interview, it was a he, right? He wasn't even thinking about, the person across. So it could be, if he has an interview with the CEO of a company, he should have the audience in mind. So if I was working with your friend, I would say, hey, who are you meeting? What's their position? Think about, why are they looking for this hire? If they're hiring someone, to work with them, ask the question, why are they hiring? So let's say, for example, this CEO is looking for an executive assistant. Understand, why is the CEO hiring an executive assistant? Well, they want an executive assistant perhaps to protect their time, to save them time, to help them firefight so they don't have to do it, so they can actually focus on doing what a CEO needs to do. Which in actual fact, I helped someone like your friend, where they were going and applying for an executive assistant role for the CEO. And I told her, this was a lady, and I told the lady, hey, most people are going to go into this interview and they're going to do what everyone does. They're going to hand over a resume and they're going to tell them about all the stuff they've done. And the CEO is just going to go into a coma because he's already expecting, or she's already expecting all this. They're used to seeing this. And every interview candidate goes in and it's me focused. So I told her, shift it. Think of this as a presentation or a public speaking, and think of the CEO as your audience. All right? Ask the question, hey, and this is what she did. Why are you hiring for this position? What are you looking for in an executive assistant? What roles are, what do you want to focus on more when you have an executive assistant, right? And then she framed what she could offer in a completely different manner. And I told her to say this. I told her, hey, you can say this to the CEO. If you hire me as your executive assistant, I'm going to protect your time. I will make sure that you're not being bothered all the time, so you can focus on leading the company. I'm going to make sure that if there are problems, that I solve them. And if I can't solve them, I'll go and figure out a way of how to actually solve the problem, so you don't have to worry about it. If you hire me, you get to have your time to do your part of the business. Guess who got the job?
She did.
Yeah, she got it. Yeah, and guess what? She got it at double what they were offering the salary.
Wow.
He got to wanting her so much that they offered twice the salary, right? From a simple framing. And it comes down to effective communication, right?
Yeah.
Thinking of the audience.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a big perspective shift to thinking about it again, as you said, from the audience perspective. Why do they need me? Why do they need this? How can I provide value for that particular situation, not just the generic thing? Because I think when it comes to, have you read How to Win Friends and Influence People? You must have.
You know what? I've read parts of it like 20 odd years ago, but great book. Yes.
You embody it all like naturally. So I'm not surprised as a natural speaker, but in there he talks about looking at things from another person's perspective, providing value, making them feel important. And it's about thinking about, what do they need? just basically classic selling. Like, let me ask
Yes.
you questions, figure out what you need, and then I'll tell you what I can do to fill that, rather than telling you everything I can do, because the more you can make that person feel important, the more likely it is, right, I'm going to hire this guy, I'm going to hire her, or I'm going to be friends with this person. You're always in that state of mind of thinking, what does that person need? And how can I be of value? And so you're
Yes.
obviously doing that with royalty and
Yes.
CEOs and presidents. And is there
Yeah.
anyone that you haven't yet
And
worked with? Or before you answer that, you can say what you have to say, of course.
no worries. I just think in this day and age, and at this stage that we're in and the way we're going and forward, it's understanding, it's saying exactly what you said. But I'd like to add the fact that it's important to be genuine about it, right? It's not about getting it right. As a speaker, can I say fuck? I bet you'll have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
delete
you
that.
can. No,
You
no,
know,
you can. I forgot to tell you at the
okay,
start.
yeah,
It's so
I
interesting.
stuff up. Okay, yeah, I mean, I fuck up all the time, right? People think, oh, you're a speaker, you get 6 figures to deliver a keynote speech, it must be perfect. It's not perfect, right? If you've been in the audience, you would see it, and I'm upfront about it. That what people that they don't want is, they don't want a perfect person, or they don't want a perfect, speaker. They want someone whom they can just trust to be genuine, right? People will accept you for your faults and flaws. You just need to be upfront about it. So yes, everything you said about, you're not there selling to them, you're actually paying attention, caring for them, but doing it from a genuine perspective. This is really important, because you see it in this day and age where people learn this as techniques, and this is a problem. They learn these techniques of asking open-ended questions, listening to the customer, and then suggesting to them, but they're doing it in an inauthentic way, and people can read through this and they're going, there's something that's off about this person. I don't know what it is, but I don't like him, right? So it's better for you to actually fuck up, but be genuine, and people will gravitate more to you. I feel that people gravitate more to me in my events when I'm speaking, or as a coach to consultant, is because I'm straight up. Like, they know this guy with all his fuck ups is genuine. What he says is true.
Yeah, is that I was going to ask you real quick, sorry to cut you off, but is that what makes you
That's
magnetic and
all right.
charismatic?
I don't know, but perhaps, yeah, if we were to say that, perhaps it's that. It's just people go, this is what you get. Like, when I'm working with a lot of these CEOs or royalties and world leaders, I'm perhaps the first person in a long time, some of them have told me this, I'm the first person in a long time that's told me, this is shit, throw it away. This tends to be right at the beginning, where if they've prepared something, they come to this realization, start all over again. Right? But I tell them, because I genuinely care about us being able to achieve results, I have to be upfront with you. Right? I'm not going to caress your ego. You have 1,000 other people in your company who will caress your ego. They'll tell you it was great when it wasn't, right? Because they're scared of upsetting you. They're scared of getting fired. They're scared of many things. I'm not scared of any of that, right? I'm here to help you get results. In order for me to be able to get you results, I need to be upfront with you. And they appreciate that.
Yeah,
But you know
definitely.
what? That skill applies to every aspect of life. Be upfront and be yourself, and stop fronting and stop acting. You might not, a lot of people won't like you. It doesn't matter. But the people that end up liking you, the people that end up wanting to work with you, the people that end up wanting to live with you, will last a lot longer, and it'll be a stronger bond.
Yeah, I love that. Have you got any examples, while we're on that topic, of where you bombed on stage, or in front of someone or a group of people, and then you had to either
Just,
quickly fix
just,
it?
just yesterday.
What
Oh
happened?
no, I own my bond. Yeah, I just I'll kind of deviate, because I've got a really short attention span. So I'll speak of something, and then if someone asks the question, or this was like an interactive workshop, they'll say something and we go off on a tangent, and then I'll literally stand there and I go, I forgot what I wanted to say, or where was I? And I'll even be upfront about it. I'm not covering it up. So I'll get the audience to go, hey, tell me where I was, because I've got a memory of a goldfish and I can't remember what I was saying. So then someone would say, oh, you were here. And be like, that's right, there you go. And then we have a good laugh and we get on with it. But you know what people might have seen this as a fault or a flaw, actually increases engagement. I've found that this actually increases the engagement with my audience.
Yeah, definitely. Because then they feel like, oh, he's just like me. He's just a human. And I think that's fundamentally what it is. It's a sense of connection,
Straight
being on
up.
the same page. So,
Yep,
um,
straight up.
if someone, I know you've had this question many times, but on a serious note, if someone was serious about motivational speaking or becoming a communicator and building their brand as a communicator, how would you in this day and age, if they're starting now, advise them to start in terms of whether it's in a game or out a game, wherever you feel the focus needs to be?
You know, if you feel that your traces of talent, or if you feel that your passion is genuinely in communicating, there are many things you can do. Exactly what you're doing, like, set up a podcast, create content on YouTube, audio, video, interview people, take up gigs. I mean, I've seen people where they say, I want to be a motivational speaker, or, I want to do whatever it is. Let's say motivational speaker. I want to be a motivational speaker. And I'm like, okay, well, how many times are you speaking this year? Or what are your plans? I don't know, nothing. I'm like, well, nothing is not going to get you anywhere. And they'll be like, oh, I've been asked to come and speak for free, but I'm not going to do free because, I want at least $5,000. What? Like, what? You want to set a name for yourself, buddy. I can tell you right now, when I started, I spoke for free. Heck, I'd pay someone to let me speak. You do whatever you need to do. You need to put ego aside. That would be, I think, the best step would be is put your ego aside and do what you have to do so that you're able to do what you want to do at some point in the future. Most people, they want to have that kind of like, they want the fame, they want the recognition straight away. You're not going to get it straight away. Not in this day and age where everyone has the same opportunity. So you have to work a lot to cut through the noise. The key is you need to find out, based on your skills, based on your passion, based on your talent, based on your desire, what niche do you want to focus on? Be prepared to work extremely hard for it. Be prepared to work for free. Put out your best content out for free. And then over time, hopefully that time won't be long, but over time, however long it takes, it shouldn't matter. You'll be able to get in that position where you're recognized because you're giving value, because what you say has value, what you're contributing has value.
How did you figure out that you wanted to focus on the niche that you're focusing on?
By just trying out so many different things and realizing that's not what I want to do. So you have, this is a really good question. You have a lot of people who say, I don't know what I want to do. I'm like, well, okay, well, what have you tried? I haven't tried anything. Well, you're not going to know. You're not going to know what you want to do, what you're good at, if you don't keep on trying. Like, for every one thing that I realize that I like to do, I've tried 100 things, or I've paid attention to 100 factors that I didn't like to do. But the only way I figured out what I did like about it was seeing all things I didn't like to do. So you just got to keep doing. People are not willing to do. That's the problem. The difference between someone who's achieved a level of success and those who aren't, they were willing to fail far more times than this person is willing to actually, try.
I love that you brought that up, because I was just about to ask you, maybe the answer might be different for this question, but you've worked with some of the top people in the world. What's the biggest trait that you've seen amongst all of them in terms of what got them to that level?
Discipline, man. Discipline. I love working with, these top folks, because I know we're going to do well when it comes to their communication. Once they've made a decision, they go, okay, I need to work on my communication skills. I know we're going to get results, because I know it takes a certain type of character to be in that leadership position. Right? There are things like, you need to have good habits. You need to have the discipline. You need to have the sacrifice. People always see the end goal. They don't realize all the hard work you've had to put in behind the scene. I appreciate it. I know that if you're doing whatever it is, like you're doing this podcast, people might just look at the end result on YouTube, or they look at Instagram, they go, oh, this guy is onto it. It's so easy. He's just got the stuff and things are happening for him. You have no idea how many long nights you've had, how many frustrations, how many times you've had to quit, or the feeling of wanting to quit, or you still hanged in, how many times you've had to go and refine something. Editing a video might look easy. No, you don't know. It could have taken you a whole day for that 1-minute clip. People, they don't realize this. I know that everything that, in order for you to be able to achieve anything, there's a lot of hard work behind the scenes. So when I'm working with these individuals, I know they're super disciplined. And so much so that it just shows. It shows in the fact that a lot of people will say, I don't have the time, right? I don't have the time to work on my communication skills. And yet these top folks who are presidents of countries, who are world leaders, who are generally perhaps in a different city or in a different country every 48 hours, they make the time. They'll make the time, like I said, at 3 a.m. I've had clients where I work with them from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. because that's the only 4-hour slot we can actually fit in before they start a full day at work. I've had clients where I work with from 8 p.m. to midnight because that's the only slot they can actually fit in. They have to sacrifice a few other things, but after a full work day, they're still willing to put in that 4 hours because they know this is critical to my success and I'm willing to do whatever I need to do. But if I really had to sum it up, it would be discipline.
I love that. Yeah, it comes back to the idea of having a reason, because they feel like it's important enough
Yes.
to their future, and they're willing to put in that time and effort. So that
Absolutely. Absolutely.
is there something you're at a level of, you know, speaking that you've reached now, like you're at a world-class level? Is there a daily routine that you do, or weekly, or whatever it might be, to keep your communication skills sharpened, or daily habits that you have, or things of that nature?
I must say I'm not one who's consistent, perhaps to my detriment, but again, just my character and my life, I like things to just be different. And I tend to be on the move a lot. So I think the only thing consistent in my life is gym and coffee. If not the gym, it's definitely coffee. I love my coffee. So that tends to be, you know, the most consistent thing. But because this is in my radar, again, I don't do many things. All I do is I speak. And when I'm not speaking, I'm coaching, you know, others, you know, on their speaking skills. So it's really a focused area. That tends to be my focus for my whole waking hour. So if I'm watching a movie, I'll see elements in it that I can use. If I'm watching someone communicate, in a barista communicating, I'll see elements in that I can use or I'm reminded of. If I know, you know, if I'm working with a client, I'll see elements of that. I can learn from every opportunity. We might have a connection where you'll see, for example, a video, and a lot of my friends and a lot of my clients, because they know this is my field, I tend to get a lot of videos that get sent to me. So I'm seeing a lot of speeches. And that speech, okay, great. I can see a lot of the faults, but I can also see a lot of the techniques that were successful. Everyone is a teacher to me. Other motivational speakers are my teachers. You know, kids are my teachers. Politicians are my teachers. But it's the frame of mind of me wanting to learn. I might read a newspaper article and I'll learn something from it. The fact that we're doing a podcast, the chances are I'm probably going to learn something from this.
Yeah, most definitely. So I think when you're tuned into that certain thing, and that can be with anything, you start seeing inspiration of it everywhere. Like you can pick it apart, and people can
Yes.
see different things from different perspectives, depending on what you're focused on at the time.
Yeah. So I would say that my habit would be learning, is my openness to learn.
That's a powerful one, because you can never stop learning. I remember you saying somewhere else, and this is like many other people, you think that the learning ends when you finish school, when you graduate, and that's just when it begins, when you begin to realize that was just 1% of what I was actually supposed to learn. You know, they've just shown me one thing and made it seem like it's the whole pie when it's actually a crumb.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So just to get into the final few questions, what was the question? I was going to ask you something. Now you made me forget what the question was.
My bad.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Transmitting forgetfulness.
Yeah, no. So it was what's sort of exciting you at the moment, like in terms of things that you're working on, or things that you might be working on in the future?
Man, I think we live now in a world, and you know the way technology is, that if you're starting from ground zero, and I consider myself today, even I really like to think, I was thinking about it this morning when I was having a coffee, that today is ground zero. Like today is ground zero. I just have the opportunity of having, you know, or the blessing of having, you know, 20 years of experience. I need to think of it, okay, I'm ground zero. What do I want to do when it comes to my business, when it comes to speaking? What do I want to do to my business when it comes to, you know, being a public speaking coach to CEOs? You know, what are the things I need to do? Marketing has changed. It's become a lot more efficient. What are the areas that I'm not tapping on? So one of the things that, you know, I'm glad that you invited me, and I thank you for inviting me on this podcast, is a lot of my work was offline. And some might say I'm really behind when it comes to the online game, and I am. But those are areas that I'm looking at, you know, focusing on. I'm just excited to do more of this. You know, how I see the next 10 years is just more of what I'm doing, because I really found the two things that I really like to do.
Yeah, I love that. No, and it comes out in the way that you speak and the way that you portray yourself. And because I think everything boils down to energy, and the energy you put into something just shows when you're presenting yourself in a certain way. And you've got amazing energy, so I'm not surprised that the people that hire you
Thank you,
do
man. I
hire
appreciate
do hire
it.
you. So,
Thank you.
um, but just to ask you the final few questions, if you had a microphone and the whole world could hear you, what's the one message you'd share with them?
Oh, that's a good one. That's like that's similar to Tim Ferriss's "What would you put on a billboard?" I like this. This is a nice one. This is a nice one. If I had a mic, what would I do? Discipline is key.
Hmm. Yeah. I think from
Yeah,
everything that you've said, that is the number one trait that people at that level have. And so, yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
this is. I say this because this is something I'm telling myself. So if I had that mic and I was the only person listening to this, I'm reminding myself that if I was to break down, having seen a lot of successful people and working with a lot of successful people in any field, whatever the field may be, it's really discipline. If I'm thinking about writing a book for my nephews, where it's literally just notes for my nephews. That would perhaps be the key thing. Would be like, if there's anything that you can learn, regardless of what talent you have or lack of talent, regardless of where you're going to be in the world, regardless of whether you have resources or not, discipline will get you to where you want.
hmm. And the second question is, what's the biggest lie we're being told right now?
Oh, that's a good one. That you can be anything you want to be.
Why would you say that?
Just because, like, I'd love to be able to go and sing or be like Sam Smith or something like that. I just don't have the voice for it. There are just certain things that you have to accept are your realities. Or I'd love to be able to dunk basketball. I'm 5'7", man. Like, I can't do it. Or I'd like to be bigger. I mean, the other day I was working out with my brother and I realized, I was like, damn, his calf muscles are bigger than my biceps, right? I'm like, fuck. Like, they're just, yeah. So there are some realities you have to accept. Like, I can get as buffed and toned, but I could never get to just the base size than my brother is. He's 5 years younger than me, but he just seems to have gotten slightly better, body genetics than I am, and it's just is more built. These are just certain realities. I might not have a voice, or I'd love to be able to break dance, but I can't. Like, or I'm just, it's at this day and age, I won't be able to do it. I mean, I dance urban kizomba, and that's completely different from, say, for example, some of these kids whom I see and they're breakdancing, and I'm like, how old are you? They're 9. I'm like, wow, I'll never be able to do that. Like, there's just some realities you have to accept.
Yeah, it's just finding that thing, isn't it? That thing that works for you and going all in on that, and
Yeah,
accepting
yeah,
that as your identity, because we're all brought here for a certain reason, and yours is obviously communication and helping others
absolutely.
put their message out there. So I think Gary Vee talks about that as well. He says just double down on your strengths. People talk about weaknesses and all the things that they want to do, like basketball and rapping. And it's like, yeah, cool. It looks cool. That's because they've got a lot of love for it and they're popular. But you're chasing the
Yes,
popularity. It doesn't mean you want to be a rapper. It means you want to be popular. But why don't you work
well
on
said.
popular on the thing that you want to work on, the thing that you're good at, which is for you, communication.
Well
Yeah.
said. Well
So
said. Absolutely. Well said. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to be a rapper. I can't. Even if I have the script in front of me, I can't rap to save my life. I just can't do it.
yeah, most definitely. So, just the last question then to wrap up. I mean, with everything and all the experiences that you've had and the many more things you're going to do in the next few decades, what's the legacy you want to leave behind?
Um, I'd like to be known as the person who, I suppose perhaps just left a seed of possibility, a seed of inspiration for, the person, whoever I've interacted with, whether it's online or in person, or I've worked with them as a coach, where they're able to say, hey, my interaction with Kevin Abdulrahman was one where I believe that I can actually go for something, go for my goal, or, achieve or do something different, or go out and become a better version of myself. Heck, if I can do a small portion of what I have of in my mind, I'd be very grateful. Yeah, that would be a good legacy.
Well, just yeah, you've definitely embodied that, and you're doing that. So as long as you continue, I'm sure you'll achieve and get everything that you wish and hope to get. So where can people find out more about you if they want to
Thank you,
find
bro.
out everything that you've done and everything that you're going to be doing?
I'm not sure about everything I've done because most of it has been offline, but we're going online. That's my promise. Our website is kevinabdulrahman.org. So we're going to be sharing, newsletters and so forth if you subscribe to it. And then on the socials, so it's Kevin Abdulrahman Official on Instagram and Facebook. And on YouTube, it's Kevin Abdulrahman.
Awesome, bro.
Hopefully you'll have some show notes because the spelling of the name, they might need a hand with it.
Yeah, no, I definitely will do. I'll put it all in there, including the website and your socials as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to drop your wisdom and to share your knowledge. I'll definitely look forward to doing a part 2 to see how far you've come, maybe 6 months or a year from now.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Hey, you're doing great things as well, man. I'm going to keep an eye on your success as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you, brother.